You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
This is Grand Design Podcast with DJ and Jerry Grand, as we link the chains of reason of sports, politics, and culture.
Welcome back to the Grand Design Podcast. This is DJ Grand, and I'm joined by my brother Jerry.
Hello.
And also Brian, our engineer.
Yeah, hopefully they don't pull me away this time.
I hope so too. We need the third wheel. Today we're going to be talking about, well, first let me tell you how to get a hold of us. That's the first thing. Our website is granddesignpodcast.com. Email is granddesignpodcast@yahoo. You can subscribe to us now on iTunes and YouTube. You can hear us on SoundCloud, and you can also now hear us on Stitcher. That's brand new. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about Tyreek Hill and the fallout from what his lack of discipline has caused.
Okay, let's go back and set this up. I want to say about a month and a half ago, it could be as far back as late February, his boy, 3-year-old son, was hurt, broke his arm. Took it it went to the hospital. He was investigated by the police. The police came back and said, we cannot charge him because neither him nor the mother of his child, he's not married, would cooperate with police. And they came out and said neither would cooperate.
That doesn't mean he's not guilty. It just means he won't be charged.
Correct.
So.
They dropped charges. They said they could not press any charges, and it was released.
Yes.
Done deal. About a week later, which would be about now, maybe 6 weeks ago, his wife secretly recorded on her iPhone, and it was a video and a recording of a conversation of him with her. And it was basically, it says, your 3-year-old son is terrified of you. He responds, no, he respects me. That's not respect. He cries when you come around. Why would he lie to the police? He's 3 years old. And when they asked him, he said, Daddy did it. And this is referring back to how he broke his arm. What do you do every time he cries? You make him open his arms up and you punch him in the chest. That is not teaching a kid respect. He is terrified of you. And he ends the conversation by saying, and I quote, you should be terrified of me, you dumb bitch. And then it was done, over. Now, since that was released, it's been reopened again, and the Chiefs has told him, the Kansas City Chiefs, you are not welcome at these premises until this gets rectified. And since then, it is now gone, the investigation is now reopened. So, first of all, he's accused of basically child abuse. They haven't come out officially, but they haven't charged him yet. It's under investigation again. But from what I'm picking up, when I've read, it looks like he could be in trouble.
The question is, are any other team going to pick him up after he's released by Kansas City?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. And I will use Kareem Hunt as the example, because Kareem Hunt did something. It was on tape that showed him actually, I don't know, was kicking or punching his girlfriend. And the Chiefs released him right away. And the Browns picked him up right afterwards for $1 million. Now, the NFL since came out and suspended him for 6 games. So the Browns have him for 10 games next year. The day this happened, the Detroit media and fans went ballistic because Detroit never thought about bringing him to Detroit. Now, in fairness to Quinn and Patricia, they said they didn't want him. They didn't want that character. They didn't want him in the locker room. So I applaud them for that. But the fans and the media just went off on the Lions for not getting Kareem Hunt. Now, recently, as of, I believe this week, I was listening to 97.1 and Mike Valente, and he came out and said flat out, it does not matter about right is right. Do not call me and talk about doing the right thing. This is about winning football games and bringing championships. Period.
That is the essence of pragmatism. Principle does not matter. All that matters is winning. The end justifies the means.
I'm glad you brought up the principle, because in essence, he was saying in this aspect, just catch a football, score a touchdown, principles don't matter. But not to digress or sidetrack, but we all know what happened in the Kentucky Derby a couple of days ago, and he's a big horse fan. Horse racing fan. And he today came out and said that he is mad at the call based on principle. So 3 days ago, he was saying principles don't matter when it comes to playing football for my town, but when it goes to my horse racing, that's all that matters.
So that tells me he's not just a pragmatist, he's also relativist. The principles matter relative to certain given situations.
I bring that up because that's where this is. I think our sports, our town, Detroit, it doesn't matter. They will. Detroit will say, pick him up. It doesn't matter if he broke his arm. I don't want to get into severe child abuse, but if he could, he's right now the fastest man in the NFL. And if he could win games, the fans of Detroit get him. It doesn't matter anymore about being character and integrity. They came out and the fans were calling in too. I echo you, Mike. Yes, please bring in these guys. Stop worrying about their character.
Well, why doesn't it matter? I mean, there's an important question. Why is it so important to them to get someone with bad character?
As you said before, other podcasts, it always goes back to a Rush song. Desperation drives the poor to extremes. This town, for the Lions, is so poor on winning. They're so desperate to win the NFL title that they've thrown everything out because of what's happened over the years, the playoff, the bad luck, the draft picks that have gone bad, number one picks that have just gone sour, Charles Rogers, that now it doesn't matter anymore. And they're seeing other teams like the Cleveland Browns improve and at the same time pick up a guy like Kareem Hunt, who, yes, they lost him for 6 games, but he's allowed in the NFL. So as long as he's in the league, why can't the Browns pick him up?
I do think that's part of it, but I also think too much emphasis is on winning. Winning becomes everything.
100% too much.
It shouldn't be. It should be going out there and giving your best effort. That's the way I was raised doing sports. You do the best you can. If you win, great. But if you don't, that's okay too. You did the best you could.
My problem is when they win, they're going to sit back and realize it's not going to be as satisfying because they got somebody on their team that wasn't really of honest character. The other thing is what basically all these people are saying is if these guys don't hurt my sister, my wife, my daughter, it's okay. But the second they touch my family, I want them playing.
Another relativist argument, but it's always someone's sister. It's always someone's daughter.
That's the point. That's why I bring that point up. Exactly. But yet it doesn't matter. He came out, and this was months ago. This is Mike Valenti came out and said, if you're the GM and he hasn't touched your family, it shouldn't matter.
That is a weak argument. It's
horrible.
Weak character.
I would think deplorable. I mean, now we're going into more about it doesn't matter anymore. I don't want to hear about, other teams are bringing in, we brought before these other players who have, again, today I brought up a list on the internet of all the arrests in the NFL, and it's huge, just humongous. And that's where there's this culture to where the NFL players, it's getting to where it's almost common to have bad character or integrity and still be allowed to play in the NFL.
It proves that it has been accepted for a long time. For it to be that long of a list and most of them are still playing, that means it's been accepted. It's ingrained in the NFL.
There are some Kansas City fans who are upset and they want him to be allowed back in the training camps because right now it's OTAs until this is solved, until it's goes through court, which brings up Adrian Peterson because he was basically banned until he went through the courts. And the second it got through the courts, he's back and playing again.
I disagree. Although there is a due process issue involved, and I do think that's why the NFL has taken their time on this. Because Kansas City has already suspended them, so they think they can take their time, do their due process, do due diligence, and find out if it's actually true. Because the articles I read, we don't even know if that tape is actually authentic or not, and that's what they're going on that tape. Besides that fact, the NFL needs to, for their own sake, their own name, they need to make sure they get this right. Because if they suspend him and it turns out he wasn't guilty truly, there wasn't an authentic tape, then they could be in trouble.
Well, that's happened twice recently. Kareem Hunt and then Reuben Foster with the San Francisco 49ers. He was arrested for domestic abuse, domestic violence. The 49ers released him and the Redskins picked him up. And the league went crazy. The world went crazy. How could you do that? He's already been, he's going up for charges against domestic violence. And then they got dropped because the spouse wouldn't cooperate. So the Redskins are looking like they were smart. And they got this guy's a good linebacker. He's top tier. He's top 10.
I think that's too low of a bar because you basically said he wasn't convicted, but he was still guilty.
Same thing.
And if he's guilty, that should be enough to make a team.
That's the same with Kareem Hunt because I think but Kansas City is doing the same thing now with Tyreek Hill because this guy was on tape. He lied to the Kansas City Chiefs. I never hit my girlfriend. That did never happen. They got a tape of him actually kicking her. So they released him. And then again, the day they released him, Cleveland picks him up. So they're thinking he's going to go on Roger Goodell's exempt list. He's out of the league forever. That didn't happen. Now he's on the Cleveland Browns. So should they have held him? And we're talking again. This guy changed the team. They were like 10-1, and when he left, they kind of went down. And dropped off, and now Tyreek Hill's going to be out. This is changing their winning chances. Now,
does that really matter? Should that really matter if it changed the team or not? We're talking a deplorable human being, so that should.
I think Kareem Hunt was deplorable for what he did. Yet he's playing for the Cleveland Browns, and they are making like Cleveland was the big winner. They hit the lotto, and Kansas City was stupid for letting them go. I
disagree. I think Kansas City was smart. As far as Tyreek Hill goes, he also has a history because
back in South Carolina. Yep.
He was accused of, I'm not sure he was convicted of this or not, but of actually strangling that same woman, but she was pregnant with his child at the time.
Correct. And yeah, it was dropped because the same situation, neither party would cooperate and they couldn't press charges. That's a common theme every single time with him. The parties wouldn't cooperate. They couldn't get enough evidence. Charges were never filed.
But, okay, that doesn't mean he didn't do it. That doesn't mean we're talking a repeat offender now. And that should tell you right there. The second strike, especially when it comes to abuse and really of a child, you're done.
I agree.
In my book, you're done.
But we're coming to a society to where if you go to the court and you get exonerated, or in Adrian Peterson's case where he pleaded no contest, he did his penalties, and now he's back in.
Really? So what about what is it? What movement is for the women now? Why am I having a blank?
Me Too?
Yeah, the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement. There's no due process. All you got to do is be accused. You're automatically guilty. That's exactly the opposite
correct.
of that.
Yeah, you're correct. In the, I want to say the non-sports world, correct. You just make the accusations true. That's in the workplace now. Just the accusation, you're out. You human resources, suspension.
So what's
discharge.
The difference between the NFL and the greater society? In one, the greater society and the Me Too, all you need to be is accused. But in the NFL, no. If you're acquitted, then you're automatically.
Let's take Kansas City. Some of the fans are upset they let Kareem Hunt go. Okay, we already discussed what he did. The fans are upset because that took their chances away, and with him, they could win the Super Bowl this year. And so the Kansas City fans are just literally pissed because, again, exonerated didn't come to be true, and now the Browns have them. So now they're saying, wait a minute, don't let Tyreek Hill go. And by the way, going back to that video, I saw the video. It was a video, on the TV. That was him. That was him. That was Tyreek Hill. I mean, her phone was pitched. It was a video recording, and it was him talking back. He respects me. Now you couldn't see her. You could hear her voice, and then when he ended it with, "You better be afraid of me, you dumb bee," he looked right into the phone. It was him. So I don't know about that authenticating it because it was him. I can't see it being fake.
In a legal manner, it has to be authenticated or it can't go to court.
Okay,
and that's why the prosecutor let it go because they couldn't. Either one wasn't cooperating, and they couldn't authenticate the
right. But now it's been reopened after she came out. And now this is the fiance who was protecting him at one point, and now she's destroying him because that got him kicked, and it has jeopardized his NFL career. And if he is found guilty, yeah, he should be done.
From what I understand, she only released it to friends, and then from there it got out.
Didn't go as planned, did it?
No, it didn't.
Because now he's been banned from the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a whole mess now, and I think he's done forever. But it's going to take the league to literally ban him, or else he will be back on another team.
So that brings up two separate issues. First of all, there's something wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs. This is actually the third that we know of. You have the murder-suicide, who was it, of Javon Belcher, who committed suicide after he had just murdered his woman. He committed it in the parking lot of the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium. And then you got Kareem Hill, and now we have
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt, I'm sorry. And now we have Tyreek Hill.
Well, there's one more. They just took on Frank Clark. Frank Clark came from Seattle. They paid him over $100 million a year, and this guy is a known domestic violence. Seattle had him a 24-hour babysitter so he wouldn't get in trouble. And Kansas City knowingly brought him in because the guy is a stud of a linebacker.
So they knew about him.
They know, yes. It's current.
And they did a character assessment of Tyreek Hill before they drafted him. They knew about him, and yet they still keep on drafting these guys. This tells me it's acceptable in the management. They're pragmatic in the management. It doesn't matter if they're bad or not, whatever it takes to win.
And now you wonder why the fans just say, just win. We don't care about the culture. Ownership doesn't care. Just win us that championship.
Okay, now the second point is, why does it have to be the NFL that bans him? Why cannot all the individual teams stand on principle and say, no, we don't want someone like that?
Colin Kaepernick.
What's that got to do with domestic violence?
All 32 teams stood up on their own. We do not want this guy in our locker room. The whole national anthem. There wasn't a collusion, and yet the NFL was accused of collusion.
But I think that's apples and oranges.
No,
because we're talking about banning someone because he's physically violent and banning another person because they protested.
Listen, I'm telling you. Hold on.
I think that's apples and oranges.
I'm telling you now. Tyreek Hill was found acquitted. These charges, and no, the NFL didn't ban him. And the 32 teams on their own said, we don't want that character, which they should. We don't want that character in the locker room. The union now comes in and fights to get him a job. Collusion. The owners they did it with, that's why I brought up Colin, because they did that. Well, the union just did that with Colin and got him a big settlement.
But maybe
they weren't colluding.
It's more.
The owners were doing just what you said. Individually, we don't want the guy. Were they, or did they say collusion is more than one team? No,
so
I think all the teams said on their own, we don't want this guy. It's a bad thing in our locker room.
I think that's speculation because we don't know if that's the case or not. And
well, you're asking teams to do that.
I'm telling them they should do that. They should say that. How come it's okay for them one or two teams to do it then? Are they colluding when they do? When you brought up Patricia and Quinn,
it should be.
Were they colluding?
No, but it should be like that. But when you have the union can make an accusation, now wait a minute, this guy's so talented, the fastest guy in the NFL, and he ain't getting a job offer.
But he's not getting a job offer because of his history of violence outside the field. That's a whole different issue of him not getting a job because he protested. I truly believe that's apples and oranges.
What I'm saying is Colin Kaepernick wasn't colluded. I don't think the owners got together and said that. I think they did it on their own, and the union made it look like they did. They'll do the same exact thing no matter what the topic is because their player, because they're looking for their players and they have to represent them. They'll get that job back.
But you would have an argument for them to do it individually when you say no, it's because he was violent. It's because he abused someone. Because you could have that argument in court against the union because we're not doing it on a protest. We're not stopping him out because he stood up and said something. We're stopping him because he was a violent person, and that would hurt our culture of our team, and it has.
There's a touchy subject because they didn't want to come out and say we don't want him to stand up and speak, that freedom of speech. So the NFL couldn't come out and defend themselves that way. What I'm basically telling you is with the Colin Kaepernick, the NFL did not collude. Yes, I'm assuming. I don't think they did. Yet the union fought in court and made it look like they did. I believe they do the same thing for Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. That no one's giving my client a job, they colluded.
But no one's giving your client a job because of his actions, because of his violent actions, not just a protest.
The union will not bring that up. My man is the fastest man. He's got the skill, and they are not hiring. Well, one team should hire him. At least one team. Why not?
Because he's a violent person outside the field. That's why not.
They would argue. I agree with you, okay? But they would argue, and they did. They're all getting together. Obviously, when you can't give this guy a job, he's the best in the planet, and you're not giving him a job, obviously, I think we have someone colluded. They got together.
Once again, I know we're going round and round, but their argument is we didn't give that guy a job because he protested. In this case we're talking about, we didn't give him a job because he's a bad person.
And I'm telling you,
there's two separate things.
They would say, no, he was acquitted. That is an assumption. He's not a bad person. He was never convicted. Look, I'm going to say the union's slime. They'll use whatever they can to protect their client. They'll even get a guy who's an alcoholic. You can't fire him. You got to give him rehab first. So this is this is really nothing, but it's their job to protect those guys because of the union.
More pragmatism.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I think it drips off the walls.
What the union is, but that's my point. They would argue and scream collusion and get Tyreek Hill back in the league because, again, I think you're 100% correct. They should, the NFL, each team. No, he's a bad guy. Like the Lions did. I commend the Lions. But if all 32 teams did that for Kareem Hunt, it would have been another collusion case by the NFL union.
Well, to me, I stand on principle. I would have fought that on principle. I would take that to court. You lost.
I would like to see that happen. But again, what happened right away? Cleveland pounced on him. They didn't even wait 5 minutes for the waivers to clear. They wanted him. And here we go. It had nothing to do with character. It had nothing to do with his off the field. It was flat out what he could do on the field. And Cleveland is another town that I think is desperate for a win. Only they're doing it maybe a little bit better than Detroit, but they're desperate. Look what they're bringing in. They're bringing in constant questionable Odell Beckham. They traded for him, and he's a locker room killer. Yeah, not on the streets, but in the locker room, it's all about me. Another Antonio Brown. So the point is, it's winning. The fans want to win. I mean, I've heard Detroit fans bring in Antonio Brown. Doesn't matter with the locker room. He wins. He catches touchdowns. All right. So it doesn't matter what they do off the field. Again, if the fans will overlook, if they can score a touchdown and bring the Super Bowl trophy to Detroit, they'll overlook it. It's okay.
So not only principles don't matter, character doesn't matter.
In today's society, it's sad, but yes. Because again, maybe I should start listening to other sports towns. I probably should start doing that. But this town is so desperate for Detroit Lions win. And they've won with the Pistons, the Tigers, and the Red Wings probably too much. And yet they still are so desperate for the Lions to win.
I think it's the entire Detroit fan base. I don't think it's Lions, Tigers. I think the entire Detroit fan base is so pragmatic and lacking of principles. They will do anything to win.
Maybe because of the Wings and they did what it took. And they bought all those Stanley Cups when they were dropped for 42 years.
Well, look what they're doing with Ken Holland. You were telling me earlier that they will be upset if Ken Holland goes to the Oilers and wins with them.
If he wins the Stanley Cup, these people on 97.1 said they would be upset with him because he didn't win the last 5 years here, but yet he could go to Edmonton, which is horrible, and win the Stanley Cup.
Edmonton's not horrible. They have Big David, one of the best players in the NHL right now.
That's what makes it horrible because no person wants that GM job, and yet they got Connor McDavid. They got Connor McDavid and been in the playoffs once. I mean, they went on and on why it's a bad job, which is why if he goes there and succeeds, that he came out and said, I will be pissed at him. Yeah, they got Yzerman, the golden child. That's what they wanted.
That's what they should be happy with that. And it's like, to me, that's like, you're mad because your ex-girlfriend went out and got a better guy than you.
That's exactly what it is. And yet they're coming out and saying
so this is the Detroit fans. It's the Detroit fans that's the problem. It's no longer that we got the guy we wanted, Steve Yzerman, the golden child. That's not good enough. Ken Holland can't go anywhere else and win
and succeed.
That is so sad.
Because he didn't succeed here. He was 5 years here. Now, Holland, to his credit, I got to give him a lot of credit because he came out and said, listen, I just like to be in control. I'm not in control anymore. And in the last 5 years, we haven't won. And, we're used to winning here. So there should be a change. He came out and held himself to the standards of which the fans were just complaining about.
I think that's even wrong because you can't win all the time. Remember when they were the Dead Wings in the 80s?
That's what I'm saying.
And then he built them and got them to win. How many cups did he win?
42 years between cups. Now there's longer now, the Blues and the Leafs, but at the time that was the longest.
Okay, so he built them, got them to win. He did something for them, but I guess it's Janet Jackson. What have you done for me lately?
Here's what they came out and specifically said: he's been a failure since the salary cap era. He was a brilliant star before that.
Really? 2008.
Just telling you what they said.
And then took him back to the finals in 2009. That's a failure.
He said the salary cap era, he's been a failure, which is why if he goes to Edmonton and succeeds with the Stanley Cup, with the salary cap, and they came out and said, I will be pissed. That's the quote.
See, I disagree with that he's been a failure. He wouldn't have won the Cup in 2008, or like I said, take him back in 2009, and it's like it's a pendulum, and now the pendulum for the Red Wings has swung in the other direction. They don't have they haven't had draft picks. I mean, for the longest time, they were always making the playoffs. Well, how many, 26 years in a row?
Yes, but
okay, so that means their draft picks were very low, and they got lower quality players, and now it's built up to that, so their team is filled with that. Now that's Ken Holland's problem.
But in their years of pragmatism, which is Ken Holland, whatever it takes, he would go out and bring in these free agents at trading deadline and trade these draft picks away to where they couldn't draft because he traded them away. They're bringing that part up too. He didn't manage his picks, and he really did screw up these long contracts. What's the Holmstrom? Is it not Holmstrom? No.
It was the Mule.
Franzen.
Yeah, it was the Mule.
That guy that was a bad contract. But like you said, it goes into cycles. Right now, the Maple Leafs are good. Back when the Detroit was good, the Maple Leafs were awful. Chicago was bad for a while. Now Chicago was good.
Same thing with the Penguins. The Penguins were atrocious just recently, and then they got Marc-Andre Fleury, Evangie Malkin, and Crosby, and now, although they're back on the way down again, but they got good again. Well, it's the whole cycle.
But Detroit fans have gotten so used to winning, and I'll call them probably one of the most arrogant fan bases. Only for hockey, they think they're the Montreal when they're not even close to Montreal. When they started winning those cups, they just felt entitlement that they should keep coming. It got to the point to where even in the Stanley Cup Finals, it was almost a lot guaranteed, and it was such a stunning awe when they lost. How could they even lose a game in the finals? And then it started to turn around. Then it went downhill, and that's just because of that trading of the picks. The talent went down. Now they're rebuilding. I guess my question for that is how long do they give Yzerman? I think
if they're so fickle, if he doesn't produce, eventually they're going to have to say, if they're consistent, they're going to say he's not good anymore. But I don't think they're going to do that because he's the golden child. He'll be treated no matter how long he is. That we'll still give him a chance.
I still think. Well, I think Eisner.
However, if he goes to another team and does it, then he's in trouble.
Well, according to today, if Holland goes, but I think Eiserman, they just announced that he's got Verbeek as his assistant GM, and Verbeek was the one that brought all the talent to the Lightning. He was their player personnel scout. So Eiserman brought his guys with him. So I think he's going to do all right. But I would think like within 5 years, they're not going to give him the pressure they're giving Holland because he is the golden child. He's got a carte blanche. He can do whatever he wants as long as he wants.
Well, we got off track a little bit. Let's get back to Tyreek Hill. Should he be just suspended or should he be permanently banned?
Suspended, not welcome to the team facilities until he goes to trial and he stands, says,
Well, if he's found guilty, should he be then permanently banned?
Now, the leagues then take a stand and say, you're done. You're on the exempt list, just like Ray Rice. To this day, Ray Rice is on the exempt list. He cannot play in the NFL.
So of all those you listed with the felonies or the
He's
crimes,
the only one.
We only have one person listed. They're standing on principle for you.
Well, hold on. But why is that?
Because they accept that sort of behavior.
The NFL screwed up, and they let the Ray Rice thing go. They kind of brushed it off. Then it came out, and they saw on tape what he actually did, and it was like in their face more than just mud. And they gave that guy the death penalty because you saw him just right hook and knock this lady out and drag her out of the elevator. The NFL was in trouble because they ignored that tape. The tape was out and they ignored it.
So
they
it
got
only becomes
there.
bad when it's caught on tape.
Exactly.
If it's not caught on tape, you're okay. So go and beat your girlfriend if you want. Just don't have it done on tape.
I was just going to say, if you're going to be bad, if you're going to beat anybody, you're going to hit them. Make sure there's cameras everywhere with Big Brother. Don't get caught. Make sure there's nothing that can come back and haunt us, so we would have to suspend you.
So the principle is, go ahead and do it. Just don't get caught.
You're coming to the point, and I would even
that's all bad stuff. You never want to get caught.
I guess where it's going, and I would challenge Mike Valente or anyone. We all know who R. Kelly is and what of a bad person he is. But yet, if that guy can score a touchdown and catch a ball, bring him in. That's the state we're at right now. If R. Kelly could play football and win, this town would accept him with open arms. Come on in. It's all about winning now. It's not about bringing in the right people with character and doing it the right way. It's about doing it, winning, and really not getting caught. And I'd blame the Patriots because they've done so many things that has come out with the deflate gate, the taping of it, and they've gotten away with it. And they're still hairless champions. I think they're proven cheaters, and yet to this day they're champions
because they have that shining prize.
Other teams see this, they want that, and they emulate it, and the characteristic comes in too. I mean, Seattle, they wanted Frank Clark out, they wanted him gone. Kansas City, they're desperate because of they were so close to Super Bowl last year. Their defense was pathetic. They thought this guy would bring them over the top, and he's a good football player on the field, but he's not a nice person off the field. And that did not matter. And yes, Kansas City knew about this before they traded for him. And once they traded for him, gave him a $106 million contract. Just loaded him with money, knowing full well what kind of person he is. So there, I will tell you right now, does Kansas City care about character? No. Until you get caught on tape, then you got to go and you're not allowed back. So should the NFL ban him? Yes, I believe they should. If he's found guilty, he's going to play football again.
Okay, Ryan. Is there anyone with a despicable character in the MMA, UFC?
Yeah, there's a bunch.
See, I would expect it there. It's more violence. But are they welcome too? Do fans love them?
I'd actually say they get penalized pretty good. I mean, they had God, what's his name? John Jones. He had a lot of drug offenses and stuff like that, and he's still kind of battling with it too. And he was suspended and all this, and he was, he's fighting now, but and there was this one guy back in the day who beat his girlfriend up, and it was all publicized, and he's gone now.
Maybe the difference there is it's not a team sport. It's individuals you're talking about.
It is a lot different than NFL and all that.
Yeah, how many though have been accused of domestic violence and been charged and found guilty?
A lot.
Really?
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 But again, you can get out of that sport you'd be like a flash in the pan. You know what I mean?
Because I haven't heard of any. It's hardly ever talked about, really. Now it's just coming to the forefront. ESPN just signed the whole UFC kind of deal.
Yeah.
So maybe there'll be more coming out, but I haven't heard of any UFC fighter.
Yeah, this is like from like a lot of history and stuff too. And I don't know like every single one of their names, but I mean, all these guys more or less are pretty crazy guys.
But do the fans embrace them after they've been doing these things? Because that's the point here. The fans are the problem.
I mean, I don't think when it's like domestic stuff, they're usually against the fighter, I would say. Because a lot of the times they're getting in trouble, it's for like, drugs or something like that. So it's like they kind of still back him up because like, oh, he just has this kind of problem with whatever substance that is. But anytime I've seen like an article about like him, like a person hurting, their significant other or whatever it may be, they usually lash out at that. So.
Well, good. Some principle in sports somewhere.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, and but yeah, it might be a lot different now with the ESPN thing. I don't know how that's going to work, but
I think they'll have more coverage and more articles, more headlines about when they catch a fighter that actually did it, and it's on tape. Oh, that's going to be frontline news.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all behind popularity. Once it gets so popular, well, just like the NFL. Right now, it's so popular that you hear about every little thing. So once MMA becomes more popular or UFC, then it's probably exposed easier.
Yeah. But and it's just sad though too, because sometimes it makes obviously for good, publicity and like makes the sport more interesting. If like two people hated each other and did something outside of the thing, I've seen that kind of push where they're like, oh, these two have like, like when Conor McGregor threw that thing at the bus and like hurt all those fighters and stuff like that. I mean, glass was getting people's eyes and stuff, and just from some feud he was having with the other guy, I think he paid a lot of money to like sweep it under the rug, but like that nothing, like that was just all like it more or less helped him, I would think. So,
I'm glad you brought that up. I thought
bad.
that was a staged event. That was
it could be. I mean, I don't know
how the whole thing went down because UFC promoting at the time it was.
Yeah.
Was that after the Floyd Mayweather or was it just before it?
Yeah, because that was the Khabib fight. And he did lose
that's
that,
right. That's right. Yes,
so I guess he got what he got coming.
I still thought that was just some kind of media, kind of.
It did seem like it
because that whole tour they went on was all.
Yeah.
If it was staged, that means they're devolving into the WWE.
Yeah, it was very wrestling-esque, in that sense.
Okay, yeah. But getting back to the Kansas City Chiefs, though, yes, I believe it's a pattern with them. I think, and it's going to be with some other teams, which is why I really like Quinn and Patricia because they're saying no, character does matter here,
which means they stand on principle.
And that also showed in the draft too, because that's another topic I want to talk about later in one of our podcasts is the NFL draft and the crap they got for drafting players of good moral character. And it just came down to, it did not matter. There's one, Marquez Sweat. You remember Hurst from Michigan last year? Awesome lineman.
Yes.
Went to the NFL Combine, had a heart problem. No one drafted. Went down to like the 5th round. Raiders finally got him. He's really not doing that well. Well, Marcus Sweat, same thing. Had a heart problem. And everyone passed on him but the Redskins. So because the Redskins took him, they just gave Detroit hell. And it was literally, no, this could be a medical disaster here. To where we could sign this guy, 1st round pick, and then we're being told he's got to walk away. So I think the Lions are actually doing things for the first time ever the right way. And their fans are killing them. I mean, killing this regime. And it's all because they haven't won. Now, making it worse, Vegas comes out with next year's odds on wins. They project their Lions to win 6.5 games. That's not going over too well with the fans. Here we go again, winning. And they've come out and said if you would have brought that guy in, I've heard callers call in if they would have got this guy. I don't care what he did in college. He's a great defensive lineman. He's got great linebackers, a great safety. I don't want to hear what we did off. He can win. That's what's boiled down to now. So they brought that into the draft now that they didn't want to hear about the bad things these guys do.
It's pure pragmatism. I mean, we go back to episode 1.
I think teams are going to emulate or cookie cutter the Kansas City Chiefs, especially if they win. And nothing gets said, nothing done, and it looks like they're getting away with it. More teams will do it. Suspension, again, yes. I'll suspend him until, he gets due process. That's what I was looking for. Give him his due process because he deserves to be going in front of his peers and, defend himself. After that, if he's guilty, he should be allowed to play it again. It's over. It's done. But if the NFL doesn't ban him permanently, there will be other teams that will pick him up in a heartbeat without even thinking about it, and they will then justify it. Even if he was convicted and the NFL didn't ban him, because Ray Rice would have been picked up, but the NFL banned him.
I believe that it doesn't necessarily have to be based on the court. Because if the team or the NFL does their due diligence, they do their proper investigation, and they come to the conclusion with evidence, not made up, that he did do this, that should be enough to say goodbye. You shouldn't need the court to come in and say.
It's sad to say this. You're 100% correct, but I think they'll wait. They'll get their investigation, their results, and it doesn't matter. If the courts find him not guilty, we're going to push these aside, and he gets to play because he's great. He's got a skill that not many people can bring to this team.
If that's the truth, then the NFL doesn't care about character. They have no principle.
I don't think the teams care about it. The Kansas City Chiefs it's a good example. I don't think they care. They want to win.
This is what
It all boils
disappoints me
down
about
to.
sports. This is why I just get so disinterested in the scores and who hit the last home run or who scored the last touchdown because of the lack of principle. It makes me want to just go away and not do
our
sports
society's
at all.
coming to the point to where it's all about winning. You know, the Saints cried. Look, the NFL's doing it because the Saints cried so much about that interference penalty. Wait till this year with this stupid new rule about the pass interference, and they get to challenge it. That's going to bite. I hope it's the Saints in the ass. It's going to really come back and hit them because they're going to get a good defensive play. The other team's going to review it, and it's going to be called interference. What the Saints complained about, they're going to get. It's going to come full circle. But that's the league, the state we've come to in society. We complain, we see it, we don't like it, change it. Especially if it helps us win. That's, I guess, my point. As long as we win, that's all that matters. Whatever it takes, goes back to what we talked about before. It's that same philosophy or principle. It doesn't matter. If we win, it's all copacetic.
You're not entitled to a victory. You're not entitled to a championship.
Detroit fans would say otherwise.
And there's where I disagree. Anyways, you've been listening to the Grand Designs podcast. Just to let you know once again how to get a hold of us or a call to action. Our website is granddesignspodcast.com. Email us at granddesignspodcast@yahoo. Listen to us at Stitcher, iTunes, watch us on YouTube and on Facebook. And you can go to our website to look at the transcripts, read along with the transcripts, or read the blog.
We would really love to hear back from you. If you have the opposing viewpoint, if you think it doesn't matter, please let us know. Write in, visit our website, email us, tell us that it doesn't matter. It's all about winning. We'd love to hear that, and we'll talk about it.
This has been the Grand Designs Podcast. Who are you listening to?